Right, this is Donald Ewen Cameron. He was involved in the MK Ultra experiments. He received a grant from the Rockefeller Foundation when it was the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission that investigated MK Ultra. And basically, MK Ultra was experiments on people. It took place in universities, hospitals, military bases, etc. And top people at institutions were aware of these experiments, and they went along with them. Cameron argued that it was necessary for behavioral scientists to act as social planners for society, and he wanted the United Nations to provide a conduit for implementing his ideas. And he wanted to apply his psychiatric elements to global policy, global governance, and global politics. He was the head of the American Psychiatric Association, I believe, and the World Psychiatric Association and the Canadian Psychiatric Association. I'm not sure if that is the exact association, but it's some main association attached to it. I didn't take any notes, and I'm doing this one all from the top of my memory, top of my head, all from memory. But he was the heads of those, and he was one of those. He came up with the idea to put the psychiatric ward inside the hospitals. He also came up with an idea to have day patient units where people would go to those patient units during the day, and at night they could go home. And I've seen these units, and I've seen it the other way around, where people go out during the day and go to the unit at night. So basically, if you look at the history of it, after World War II, you get people like Donald Ewen Cameron, who he was actually responsible for the Nuremberg Medicinal Tribunal. And after World War II, you get people like this who start applying Nazi ideas of social control and trying to control people's behavior to the population. And they experimented with LSD and amphetamines and barbiturates. And they were trying to, they even experimented with hypnosis. And they're trying to control world politics and world beliefs. He came up with a list of people that he felt were unbeneficial to society. It's also important to note that he was involved in boosting the power of the authority. He believed that you should boost the authority figures, and part of how you did it was by going after the people with mental disorders. He also believed that mental disorders were contagious, that people who had them would not only spread them by having babies, but would also spread them by coming into contact with people. He believed that these people needed to be separated from society and studied. And you see a lot of his principles and ideas still being played out in institutions to this day. Now, he himself wasn't a Nazi. He was critical of the Nazis, but he believed in a lot of their principles and policies at the same time, as far as social control, and social planning, and behavioral science. He was a big criminal in this aspect because he made a lasting impact on psych wards and American policy as it pertains to the psychiatric industry. It's also important to note that part of the places where they were testing the MK Ultra was right here in San Francisco, Northern California, 45 minutes away from me. Also at pharmaceutical companies. So the pharmaceutical companies on record were caught with the CIA, and they got rid of the files, and it didn't stop till 1973, I believe it was, and they got rid of the files right before they did the investigation. So the majority of the files will never be known. They were destroyed. And you can look up, who was the heading the who was heading the operation, and who, and you can look up all this stuff about all this information about MK Ultra. It's available. The certain documents were declassified. But if you look at it historically, only a fool would not understand the Operation Paperclip, MK Ultra, and the American Psychiatric Association. historically involve Nazi science, and control. These people are interested in control, and they have always implemented policies that reflect that into their social plan for people with mental disorders. And if you look at my other videos, I argue the nature of mental disorders all throughout my videos. That's well established. But here again, I always give you the facts. I give you my opinions also, on their theories, but I give you the facts that contradict their theories at the same time. So again, his name is Donald Ewen Cameron, and we're talking about 1940s here, and MK Ultra took place all the way through the 1970s to 1973, and there was millions of dollars spent on it. And one of the justifications for it was they wanted to come up with methods to interrogate the Russian spies during that time period. They were worried about competing with the Russians after World War II, and the Red Scare and all that stuff. They're afraid of communism, the communist scare, and so they wanted to be able to interrogate the spies successfully, and they tried hypnosis and all this other stuff. So that's this tale of Donald Ewen Cameron, who's one of the main people responsible. I talk about Franz Coleman and Eugene Fisher, and I talk about these other people who were involved in the medical studies of, there's a long list of Nazi doctors that are involved in the experiments on the Jews and on the people with mental disabilities, and on the disabled population in general. Anybody they deemed unworthy of living, they experimented on at their will. So, when you truly understand the history of this science, it's a fraud, it's wicked. There's good people that take part in this science, if you want to call it that, this pseudoscience rather. But the idea and the way it's applied and implemented, it is the most wicked system that there is, as far as what I see right now violating human rights the most. I see psychiatry. It's one of the top violators of human rights, if not the top. And it's the most profitable industry, and it's the #1 cause of death in teens. Prescription pills, a lot of them psychotropic pills. And if you truly understand the nature and how they apply some of these addictive, some of these addictive painkillers have been prescribed for depression as well. You truly understand what they're doing and how they're profiting and the history of it. I hope you would be as outraged as I am. Thank you.